Joining us now is Calvin Dark, political and global affairs analyst and principal and co-founder of RC Communications. Calvin, thanks so much for joining us. You know, we've learned that on 4 occasions classified documents were found at Biden's private home and a D.C. office he used before becoming president. Do you think we have heard the last of the documents being uncovered, or do you expect us to hear about more of them being found?
Well, it's good to be here. I definitely think that the White House and Joe Biden hope that there aren't any more documents that need to be found, because it seems like every other day there's a new discovery. But I think whether or not new documents are found, we're going to be hearing about these documents for a while, because even if they don't increase in number, the next obvious question is, what were the contents? What were these about? And how does that relate to the special counsel investigation? So I'm sure they hope no more will be found, but if whether or not they are, we're going to be talking about them for a long time.
Yeah, and we've learned that at least one of those documents was marked as being highly classified. So who is ultimately responsible for the mishandling of these documents? I mean, some GOP lawmakers are drawing parallels with the investigation into classified Trump documents.
Yes, and I think what it's all going to hinge on is willfulness, because there are some key differences. First of all, it was the Biden team that brought this to the attention of the National Archives and the Department of Justice. In the case with Trump, they were asking for documents, and they spent a year and a half trying to get them. So in that sense, they're different. But when it comes to who's responsible, I think once they find out if Biden knew or if his team knew that they were there, then yes, they would be responsible, just as that investigation is going on with Trump. However, one thing I think that we all learned after both of these situations is maybe we need to look at how the archives are cataloging these documents, because at least in the case of Biden, they didn't even realize they weren't there. So that's something that I think once we get past the politics needs to be looked into just a bit.
Well, how do you think Republicans will try to capitalize on the DOJ's investigation into President Biden?
Now, legally, the investigations are going to be completely separate. But in politics, those legal technicalities and nuances have very little meaning. And I think that any political damage that former President Trump was facing with his document situation has been blunted by this. Because once you get past the nuances and technicalities, you have a former president and a current president who both had documents that they're with some level of classification. And so as it relates to the political side, particularly Donald Trump's run for 2024, this is a win for him, because it at least gets the political consequences out of the way. And I think the Republicans, particularly in the House, are going to make sure that happens, because, of course, they're going to investigate it.
Right. Well, ultimately, though, will anything happen to either President Biden or former President Trump in regards to these incidents?
I think that remains to be seen with the DOJ. And like I said, I think the only way that there will be real consequences for either of them is if they can somehow prove that there was willful concealment of these documents, or if there was obstruction in trying to get them back. But I honestly think that what happened with Biden kind of puts more context around what's happening with Trump. And it actually gives Trump's argument that, hey, I have hundreds of thousands of pages of documents. If there are a few that maybe got in with the ones I was supposed to have, it's not a big deal. It's definitely not criminal. And while that's not legally the case, politically, it sure makes sense to a lot of voters.
All right. Calvin Dark, political and global affairs analyst and principal and co-founder of RC Communications. Really appreciate your time and insight. Thank you.
Thank you.